Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we talk with Nick Levendofsky, Executive Director of the Kansas Farmers Union. We'll talk Farm Bill priorities and right to repair. We'll also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Grain Sorghum, along with the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agricultural news, Jewell County native Greg Dowd, whose stellar career in agriculture trade policy includes leading often intense discussions with China between 2018 and 2020 as the chief ag trade negotiator in the Office of the U.S. Trade Rep. He's going to be the featured speaker for the Henry C. Gardner Global Food Systems Lecture October 9th on the campus of Kansas State University. Dowd's talk, titled The Future of Agriculture Trade, Geopolitics and Food, begins at 7 o'clock that day at McCain's Auditorium there on the campus. Admission is free. Dowd earned his undergraduate and graduate degrees from Kansas State before embarking on a career including market analyst for U.S. Wheat Associates, chief economist for the U.S. the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, as well as president of the Commodity Markets Council. Now, since 2020, Dowd had been vice president of Global Situation Awareness and the chief economist at Aimpoint Research, a global strategic alliance that specializes in agri-food. He recently left that position to become the chief executive officer and president of the National Milk Producers Federation. Dowd says his talk will focus on the future of the agriculture markets. Well, agricultural credit conditions in the Kansas City Federal Reserve's 10th District moderated in the second quarter of 2023. Farmland values continue to increase. Now, following multiple years of improvement, farm income softening a bit. Borrow liquidity retracted somewhat alongside continued cost pressures and lower prices for most ag commodities compared to a year ago. Now, despite some modernization, the district's farm economy was steady in the second quarter. Drought early in the quarter, followed by some heavy rains, contributed to difficulty with getting the winter wheat harvest complete and also spring planting. Some agricultural bankers commenting that decreased grain prices, weather volatility, and stable production expenses could reduce borrow's liquidity that had been very strong during the renew season. And U.S. consumers remain interested in plant-based meat alternatives, but higher prices leading many prospective return customers to taper off their purchases. Plant-based meats are often several dollars in a pound higher than the equivalent of meat and poultry products, but beyond cost, the lingering negative perceptions around taste, value, and versatility are obstacles that the category has yet to overcome. Now, according to a new report out from CoBank, the market for plant-based meat likely reached a tipping point as the initial period of exceptional sales growth appears to be over. Plant-based meat sales peaked in 2020 when consumers had more discretionary income and were curious about broadening their food spend in the wake of the pandemic-era food shortages, but fewer than half of Americans who tried the product at the time repeated their purchase. It's Ag News. We'll have more in a moment. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And our guest is Nick Levendofsky, who is Executive Director of the Kansas Farmers Union. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Ken. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us. A few things we want to talk with you about. And kind of first is what seems to be on the top of everyone's mind. That is getting a new farm bill done. All indications are looks like it's going to be a waiting game.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, we're not where we need to be in the whole timeline process of the Farm Bill. It's my understanding that Chairman is working on his Chairman's marker bill right now. Didn't go home for the August recess. So hopefully by the time folks get back from August recess after Labor Day, there will actually be a marker bill for the House to work from, and they can keep things moving. But I'm thinking there's got to be an extension on the current farm bill so that we can, buy some more time to get this done.
He has said if it has to be extended, hopefully it's a short one. But
Yeah,
you and I have both been through enough of these now to know that it seems like every time around it takes a little bit longer. But we also got to remind folks, well over almost half of these members of Congress, at least in the House, have never had a chance to vote yay or nay on a farm bill.
that's exactly right. And part of the process that's involved in that is educating those new members of Congress on what the farm bill is, what it contains, and then of course sharing our priorities with them. So I'm thinking of Representative Sharice Davids being fairly new on the farm bill or on the House Ag Committee, but frankly Tracy Mann is just as new as well. He hasn't voted on a farm bill yet since his time in Congress, and so it's working with those folks all across the board, frankly, to get them up to date on where things are and where we'd like them to be in this next farm bill.
We'll talk about the priorities of not only the national but the Kansas Farmers Union. What you all like to see in this farm bill?
Certainly, Ken. One of the big things that we're asking for is we would like an additional title created in the farm bill. Currently, we're on 12 titles in the 2018 Farm Bill. We're asking for a 13th competition title, and that would address issues within the agriculture industry, whether it's with packing, meat packing, whether it's with seeds and chemicals and fertilizers, those kinds of things. We've seen a drastic change in the number of meat packers that are out there. There's only really 4 big packers left. Same goes with seed companies, same goes with fertilizer companies, same goes with grain merchandisers. We need to address these issues. It's been a problem now for the better part of the last 40 years. And really, GIPSA at USDA has kind of been neutered, so to speak. We need to see more strength put back into the Grain Inspection, Packers, and Stockyards Administration. So that's a huge priority for us. We want to see a number of different bills move forward as well that address competition and concentration in the marketplace. But we also want to strengthen farm programs, disaster assistance, and risk management. With all of the extreme weather events that we've seen here lately, whether it's drought or too much rain, hail, you name it, these crop insurance programs are going to get heavily utilized. And that's where those dollars need to be going. That's where that focus needs to be going. So, we want to make sure that under farm programs, we've got a dual enrollment option for agricultural risk coverage, or ARC, and price loss coverage, PLC. We want to authorize a voluntary update of base acres and yields. And we want to increase loan rates and other price-based triggers that reflect higher commodity prices and input costs. Under disaster assistance, we want to enhance a permanent disaster assistance program to address implementation delays and inequitable or incomplete support. We also want to expand the permanent disaster assistance program options. And then under risk management, we want to make those products more accessible for those specialty crop producers and diverse cropping systems. We have the whole farm revenue protection program, but it's not that affordable and it's not that accessible to most farmers who farm those specialty crops. We also want to give farmers the option to voluntarily remove marginal or sensitive land from production annually in exchange for crop insurance enhancements. We also have additional priorities. Excuse me just a second here. I can get these for you. We'd like to address the USDA staffing shortfalls. There's still quite a few county offices that are understaffed or they've had to merge with other county offices. We'd like to stem the loss of family dairy farms by enacting the Dairy Revitalization Plan. We want to help farmers tackle climate change and steward their land through financial and technical assistance to support healthy soils and expand on farm renewable energy. We'd like to have incentives to implement practices that increase resilience and decrease risk. And we want investments in agriculture research, outreach, and education. Those are kind of our higher priorities for the Farm Bill. But of course, we're always interested in beginning farmer programs that assist socially disadvantaged farmers, those kinds of things. And then can't forget about the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. In the last Farm Bill, we got $50 million toward that. It would be glad to see that same amount, if not more, to go back into that, because with all that goes into farming, whether it's the stress of the markets or the stress of the weather, or you name it, debt, the stress falls pretty hardly on farmers and on their backs and on their families. So we need to address this. We need better access to farm stress programs in rural areas.
We're talking with Nick Levendofsky, who is Executive Director of the Kansas Farmers Union. We're going to take a quick break, come back and talk about a big victory that they've received, and we'll do that in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com. And our guest is Nick Levendofsky, who is Executive Director of the Kansas Farmers Union. And Nick, as we went to break, we talked about a victory that the Farmers Union received, a letter from the administrator of EPA saying right to repair is good to go.
Yeah, this was quite a surprise here about, a week or so ago. The EPA Secretary Michael Regan sent us a letter that said that the EPA affirmed that the Clean Air Act cannot be used as a basis to restrict independent repair of farm equipment, which is something that we've been pushing for some time now. When it comes to, as I mentioned earlier, competition, concentration, and those kinds of things in the marketplace, right to repair is a huge part of that.
Well, it's one of those that has been worked on, and other groups have tried to come with MOUs to try to get this all worked. But this may be finally opening the floodgates to where we can see what folks like you and others have advocated for. So it'll be interesting to see how that thing continues to play out. Nick, before we wrap up, I do want to just re-examine something that you talked about, and that is the stress on the farm. And we know that something that has been very much a bipartisan issue and worked across with many ag organizations, Farmers Union, Farm Bureau, the two probably top that came together, and working with other groups. We know it's a stressful time, and here in our state especially, we've dealt with a lot of weather situations. Others are doing it now, but talk about that camaraderie, that even though we may disagree on some policy issues, there are things that we can agree on, and one of those is helping people and keeping them on the land.
That's exactly right, Ken. And there are times when we do disagree, but this is something we can all agree on, is that we need to look out for each other in rural America. And when it comes to farm stress, I think it's important for folks to remember that you're not in this alone, that there are a lot of folks out there right now who are struggling, whether it's with the markets, or whether it's with the current weather situation you're dealing with, or debt, whatever it might be. It might be something personal happening at home. No one is immune from this. And I think that's something that we all recognize, whether you're a Farmers Union member or a Farm Bureau member or a member of any of the commodity organizations. Nobody is immune to this. And I can't stress enough how important it is that we look out for each other. that we check in on each other. We're really good about going out and checking on our crops. We drive by and do a crop tour, and we go check on those beans or check on the corn. We go out and check on our livestock. We make sure that they've got plenty of water. They make sure they got plenty of feed, or that the fences are good. We need to be just as good about checking on our neighbors when it comes to that. So whether it's giving them a call and saying, hey, you want to go grab a cup of coffee, or do you want to go on a crop tour with me? You want to go help me check fence? Those kinds of things. Kind of pull them back away from whatever it might be that's pulling them down, and make sure that they're okay. And if they're not okay, recognizing the signs and getting them the help that they need. And I know it's difficult in rural parts of the country, sometimes getting access to those services, those mental health services is difficult. There's also the stigma of, I don't want somebody to see my pickup parked in front of Pawnee Mental Health in Belleville, Kansas. We've got to get away from that. Everybody's fighting their own battle, it seems. And, after coming off of COVID-19 and the pandemic and all that, there's still a lot of folks that are struggling. So we've got to try to do all we can to eliminate that stigma, do a better job of looking out for each other and taking care of each other.
All right, Nick, if folks want to learn more about everything going on with the Kansas Farmers Union, how's the best way to do that?
Best place to do that is at our website. It's at kansasfarmersunion.org. You can also check out the Farm Bill priorities that I mentioned earlier at National Farmers Union's website, which is nfu.org.
All right, Nick, very good. Thanks for checking in with us. We'll talk with you again soon.
Thank you, Ken.
Nick Levendofsky, the Executive Director of the Kansas Farmers Union, has joined us. We'll take a break, come back with more in just a moment.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
Every 5 years, the United States Congress develops and enacts the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill governs food programs such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and provides support for farm commodity programs. The 2023 Farm Bill is currently in phases 1 and 2 of the development process, which consists of oversight hearings and budget direction. There are 9 phases in total, ending with implementation by the United States Department of Agriculture. Although the new Farm Bill may not be done by the time the current bill expires at the end of September, it is predicted that it could be done by the end of the year. While the checkoff cannot influence policy, the American Soybean Association is able to advocate for policy and legislation that addresses the needs of farmers. 2 of the top Farm Bill priorities outlined by ASA are improving the Title I farm safety net and protecting and enhancing crop insurance. The Farm Safety Net provides risk protection and income support to farmers. According to ASA, a farm safety net with an increased soybean reference price, adjusted agriculture risk coverage calculations, and the option to update base acres will better help farmers navigate current supply chain disruptions, such as the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the effects of COVID-19. In addition, the support for crop insurance continues to be important as many farmers in Kansas face dry and volatile weather conditions. Farmers have been able to provide input to legislators through letters, visits to D.C., town hall meetings, and more. The opportunity to provide more input will be present in August when legislators will be back in their states and districts. This grassroots engagement is one way that can ensure the needs of farmers are addressed in the 2023 Farm Bill.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
September is just around the corner, and that means it's time for the Kansas State Fair. The State Fair is one of the best parts of the year for the Kansas Department of Agriculture, as many of our staff will assist in a variety of areas, ranging from animal health and food safety to agriculture education and advocacy. Our trademark program, From the Land of Kansas, will have a booth in the Pride of Kansas building all week, which will feature member companies offering tasting opportunities and selling their products. KDA will be represented at the AgriLand booth, also in the Pride of Kansas building, where children can enjoy a hands-on experience learning how Kansas crops and livestock provide us with food and other items we use every day. On the first Saturday of the fair, KDA will be hosting the Kansas Grape Stomp event at 1 o'clock at Gottschalk Park. This event is a fun opportunity to learn about the grape and wine industry in Kansas and see who will be crowned the Kansas Grape Stomp Champion of 2023. Meanwhile, KDA's Division of Animal Health staff oversees biosecurity services for the thousands of livestock exhibitors bringing animals to show and competition. You'll see us in the barns throughout the fair as we help ensure the safety of all animals and exhibitors. And our food safety and lodging program personnel will be present to inspect the food vendors and to provide education and assistance, ensuring that food preparation areas are clean, food is prepared and stored safely, and that workers are following proper food handling guidelines. The Kansas Department of Agriculture encourages all Kansans to head to the fair to enjoy all of the exhibits, entertainment, competitions, and educational displays. The Kansas State Fair, September 8th through 17th, is a wonderful showcase of Kansas agriculture, industry, and culture, as well as an educational and entertaining experience that is the pride of all Kansans. To find out more, go to kansasstatefair.com.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Hi everyone, Maddie Meyer here with the Kansas Grain Sorghum Update. Starting off with the crop progress report from the USDA, a majority of the sorghum crop remains in good condition. Currently, 63% of the crop has headed out compared to 50% last year. The total harvest is projected to be at over 3 million acres, up 13% from last year. Yields are forecasted to be at 73 bushels an acre compared to 2022's 34 bushels. This month, we've really hit the ground running across the state of Kansas, connecting with our growers, leaders, and industry partners. We attended the High Plains Journal Sorghum U Wheat U in Wichita, where our very own Kansas Grain Sorghum Producers Association President Kent Winter and Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission Chairman Brent Peterson joined wheat farmers Michael Peters and Brent Olek for a farmer panel where they discussed farm policy, management practices, and more. We also heard a lunchtime keynote from KWCH Chief Meteorologist Ross Jansen, and the afternoon rounded out with multiple breakout sessions focused on soil health, market outlooks, and pest management. Kansas Grain Sorghum leaders also attended the Flickner Innovation Farms Field Day event over in Mound Ridge. The Flickner farm utilizes technology that will allow for more sustainable practices, and this field day really highlighted these items. Attendees were able to see equipment demonstrations as well as hear reports from K-State research and extension specialists and graduate students. We look forward to visiting Manhattan soon to host our very own Commission Budget Board meetings held on September 1st at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Thank you, and stay tuned for next time.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
Producers and landowners who install enduring conservation practices may qualify to receive financial assistance through a voluntary state cost share program designed to encourage the improvement of water quality and quantity across the state. Funding is provided by the Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Conservation through appropriation from the State Water Plan Fund. The cost share program is administered by conservation districts across the state. Along with the annual funding, additional money is available for fiscal year 2024 to landowners and producers interested in implementing eligible practices such as irrigation management, nutrient management, planting cover crops, managing livestock water supplies, cross-fencing, and abandoned well plugging. Those accepted for the program will be notified of the practice or practices approved and the estimated amount of cost share to be provided. Projects started or completed prior to being approved for funding by individual districts and the Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Conservation are not eligible for these funds. To apply for cost share funds or for more information on the program, contact your local conservation district. A district directory can be found at agriculture.ks.gov.
Mitch Dewar here with Pinion Risk Management. New lows. On August 15th, December corn futures broke through the previous low of 481 and traded all the way down to 473 3/4. Those are prices that we haven't traded since 2020. A week ago Friday, the USDA released the August supply and demand report. The most anticipated numbers in this report were what the USDA would print for yield for corn and soybeans. In the August report, corn yield was dropped 2 bushels per acre from July's USDA report to 175.5, which was just below the pre-report estimate of 175.5. In soybeans, a 50.9 bushel per acre was printed versus a 52 bushel per acre print in July, and also 0.4 bushels per acre under the trade estimate. With the drop in yields from July, the total production numbers also were decreased for both corn and beans. The futures markets couldn't hold on to positive gains throughout the day on the report, and both closed in the negative. This next week we will get a better idea of what is in the field as the Pro Farmer Tour starts on Monday. The cattle market as a whole has continued to be very strong. Futures markets have moved to more of a sideways trade rather than a trending upward pattern. Live cattle slaughter is running 30 to 40,000 head per week below last year's levels. You can reach us at 888-452-8751. I'm Mitch Dewar with Pinion Risk Management.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
That's our show this week. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or on our social media channels. School's back in session. Be careful for some of those new drivers as well as those school buses as the kiddos get on the bus in the mornings. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for joining us. See you next week on the Kansas Ag Report.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.